Hello, my name is Diane, and today I'm going to talk about some of the books coming out in August. I have 7 books to talk about. Most of them are about witches or cats, but they are all fantasy books. The first book coming out on August 6th is A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. This follows our main character Cordelia, who knows that her life is not normal and her mother is not normal. They live in a house that has no doors. She's not allowed to have any friends with the exception of their horse, and she is on occasion forced to sit entirely still for hours or sometimes days. And this odd life is because Cordelia's mother is an evil sorcerer. Unexpectedly, the mother moves them into this house of a wealthy squire, and there they live with the squire and his sister. Cordelia winds up liking them, which makes it very difficult when she realizes that these are to be her mother's next victims. So she has to find a way to stand up to the woman who raised her in defense of this place that finally feels like home and these people who are not her family but feel like family. I'm really looking forward to this. I've liked pretty much all of T. Kingfisher's fantasy that I've read so far. The only one of her books I'm not really into are the more romance-centered ones, and that's just because I don't like romance-centered stories, and this does not sound like that, so I'm very excited about it. Typically kind of quirky fantasy stories, a little bit offbeat, but I like the way that she writes. The family dynamic and her magic is always very interesting, always has an interesting spin on it. Also coming out on August 6th is Strange Folk by Allie Dyer. This follows a woman named Lee who left Craw Valley when she was 18. She had no interest in the magic that her family has historically used. However, now, much later, she is leaving her life in California and returns to Craw Valley with nowhere else to go with her children. There they live with Lee's grandmother, Belva, and Lee is doing her best to stay away from Belva's world and her magic. She still doesn't want anything to do with it. Until one day, one of the targets of Belva's spells is found dead, and Lee is afraid that Belva has conjured something much more dangerous with her magic than she may have intended. As a result of this, Lee winds up delving into the family's past and their secrets and their magic, and learns to harness her own magic as well to deal with whatever is going on. I don't read a lot of stories like this that sound a little bit more modern magic, but I've been enjoying them more and more lately, so this one does sound very interesting. I like the idea of this woman returning home and rediscovering her family's magic, finding a way to finally accept it as her own, as out of necessity to protect her family. I've been enjoying that theme of kind of facing your family's past and the things, returning home and dealing with the things that you left behind, finding a way, if not to rejoin them and make that your new life, to at least accept what you left behind as a part of who you are. And the magic sounds very interesting in this, finding out what Belva actually did, if it was what she intended or not, and how Lee is going to hopefully fix it. Also coming out on August 6th is The Dead Cattail Assassins by P. Jelly Clark. This follows assassins who are not cats, they don't have tails, but they are dead. This follows Aveen the Eviscerator, who is a part of a guild, and they accept contracts as assassins, and their rules are they can only kill if it is contracted, and if they accept a contract, they have to follow through with it. During a festival in the city that this takes place, Aveen is following through on a contract that causes her to face a past that she is not meant to remember. That is part of the way things work in the resurrection, is they lose all of their memories, their ties to whoever they were before, and she now has to face a past she shouldn't remember while also following through on the contract, lest she break these 3 rules that she has to follow. I like stories about assassins. I just think it's an interesting angle to come from, people who are probably not very good people, but maybe following some sort of rules or living this life for a specific reason. In this, it sounds like Aveen maybe didn't have a choice in becoming this type of assassin, and now she also has no choice but to follow through on the job that she's been given. I've heard good things about this. It sounds very interesting, so I'm looking forward to it when it comes out. Then on August 20th, we have The Last Witch of Edinburgh by Marielle Thompson. The story takes place in 1824 Edinburgh, in an alternate Edinburgh, during a time when all women are afraid of being tried and hung for witchcraft. They know that all it really takes is to have someone who doesn't like you to accuse you of witchcraft to make that happen. Our main character, Nellie, comes across this women's apothecary that she joins. They use their magic to provide cures and also to serve this winter deity. Nellie learns a lot from this group and also finally feels like she fits in somewhere. She's very happy there. However, the winter deity has some opposing force that is working against her, and this leads up to some disaster, causing Nellie to flee. And for the next 200 years, she is living life outside of Edinburgh, hiding from whatever has happened there. And we eventually see her return and face what has happened in a now more modern world. This sounds like it has that similar theme that I already talked about of just someone returning to face their past and accept, or at least deal with, whatever has happened. Maybe not accept it in this case. It sounds like Nellie's gonna try and make peace with it, if not go against whatever caused this disaster, forcing her to flee. Also coming out on August 20th, moving into our books about cats, we have The Full Moon Coffee Shop by Mai Mochizuki. This story is about a coffee shop that has no location, no hours. It just appears whenever and wherever, seemingly at random. It is also run by talking cats. The cats not only serve teas and cakes, they also read their customers' star charts and offer them advice and guidance. In this, we see a handful of customers come to this shop who are feeling, for different reasons, lost in their lives, and this shop has appeared to them for a reason, and we'll see the cats of the shop hopefully guide them back to a path that will make them happier, get them back on track from wherever, whatever is making them feel lost in their lives. This sounds sort of similar to Before the Coffee Gets Cold, in that it is a magical shop that kind of helps people deal with whatever they're having trouble dealing with. This just sounds like a little bit sillier because it's run by cats, a little bit more magical because it is a shop that can appear anywhere, and it's also dealing with a wider range of topics, not necessarily loss or grief or anything like that, but just generally feeling lost in life. So it sounds like it'll be a little bit thoughtful and also a little bit silly. Then on August 27th, we have The Ghost Cat by Alex Howard. This follows a cat who, at the beginning of the 1900s, becomes the ghost cat. We then follow this ghost cat for... The turkey just flew into the yard. We then follow this ghost cat for the next 120 years as he follows along with the lives and the changes in this tenement building that he lives in, or lived in. I guess he's a ghost now. So we cover a lot of time with this cat. I don't know how in-depth into these people's lives we're going to get because it's such a large span of time, but it sounds interesting seeing these lives through the eyes of a cat. And also coming out on August 27th is Long Live Evil by Sarah Reese Brennan. This follows a woman named Ray who is dying and is granted a magical bargain to get a second chance to live and be transported to her favorite fantasy series. So she awakens in a castle and finds that she is now in a fantasy world full of magical creatures and court intrigue and her favorite fictional character, the Emperor. However, she also realizes that she is not going to be the hero of this story. She is actually the villain in the Emperor's story. So she just goes with it. She builds up her evil companions and whatever evil plot. I don't know exactly what she's going to be doing that is so evil. She is the villain and she is embracing that role. And because of this, she is of course going to have to go up against the Emperor at some point. We'll have to see if the villain wins or if she doesn't make it to the end of that story. I think this is just an interesting concept to take that idea of if you could live in any fantasy world, any world from a fantasy series, which world would it be? And there is always that risk of there are dangerous creatures and typically wars going on in the kingdoms and things like that, to see this explored a bit more deeply, this character going into a story, the story within the story, and that becoming her world and her reality. Those are all the books I have to talk about. Let me know what you're most excited to read in August. That's all for me today. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time.